The first German prisoners crossed into Camp Concordia, Kansas on July 4, 1943. They had eaten nothing but watery cabbage soup for 6 days. The mess hall doors opened at 1700 hours. Sergeant Wilhelm Müller, 21st Panzer Division, captured at Kasserine Pass, stopped 3 meters from the serving line. His post-war testimony to British interviewers recorded the moment with crystalline precision. "I thought the tables were decorated like a propaganda photograph. Each tray held 12 ounces of pot roast, 4 ounces of mashed potatoes, 60 grams of green beans, 2 dinner rolls, butter, actual butter, in a small paper cup, and a slice of apple pie." Müller's ration in North Africa, per Wehrmacht logistics records from January 1943. 300 grams of bread, 120 grams of meat substitute, 15 grams of fat weekly. The American daily caloric load before these men averaged 3,200 calories. German frontline troops in Tunisia received 1,250 on good weeks. The Battle of Kasserine Pass in February 1943 had been America's first major encounter with Rommel's forces. Between February 19th and 24th, Axis forces had overwhelmed inexperienced American troops, capturing over 3,700 Allied prisoners while inflicting devastating losses. But within months, the tide turned. By May 13, 1943, the Afrika Korps surrendered in Tunisia. General Jürgen von Arnim, Rommel's replacement, went into captivity along with 275,000 German and Italian soldiers. The 21st Panzer Division, which had arrived in North Africa as the 5th Light Division in February 1941, had fought across the desert for over 2 years. Now its survivors faced an uncertain future as prisoners of war. The journey from North African prison cages to American soil took weeks. Prisoners were marched to ports in Algiers and Oran, loaded onto ships, and transported across the Atlantic. After 2 weeks at sea, they arrived at Norfolk, Virginia in August 1943. What shocked them immediately was the mode of transport. Not cattle cars, but sleek, comfortable passenger trains. 2 days later, they reached their destinations across the American heartland. They ate in silence, every scrap. Müller folded his napkin over the 2 remaining bites of bread and slipped them into his shirt. Around him, 240 men did the same. Pockets bulged with rolls, apple cores, buttercups still half full. Kitchen staff watched through the serving window. One private asked if they should clear the tables. The mess officer, Lieutenant Howard Chen, said, "No, let them learn." His duty log noted the observation with clinical detachment. Morning count revealed the hoarded food, bread hardening under bunks, butter melting into uniform pockets. Oberleutnant Ernst Becker, a Luftwaffe navigator shot down over Sicily, had wrapped 4 rolls in his pillowcase. His barracks inspection report dated July 6th recorded the discovery alongside the camp interpreter's annotation. Prisoner states he was saving for when rations stop. The Geneva Convention of 1929 required captor nations to feed prisoners of war equivalent to their own garrison troops. U.S. Army Regulation 633-1, issued February 1943, specified minimum standards. Meat at least once daily, fresh vegetables, 3,000 calories minimum. Camp Concordia's contract with Ellsworth Milling Company supplied 60 pounds of flour per 100 prisoners per day. The German Army's entire 6th Army at Stalingrad, before the encirclement, received 30 pounds per 100 men daily at peak supply. Camp Concordia had been constructed in just 90 days, beginning in February 1943. At a cost of $1,308,860, running $40,000 over budget, the facility comprised 304 buildings, including a 177-bed hospital, fire department, 5 warehouses, cold storage, officers' club, and barracks for both German POWs and American soldiers. At its peak, the camp held over 4,000 prisoners and was staffed by 800 US soldiers. It stretched across 640 acres at the junction of three major railroad lines, the Chicago, Burlington and Quincy, the Union Pacific, and the Missouri Pacific. Breakfast on July 5th. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, coffee, orange juice. Müller's diary, preserved in the Concordia camp archive, recorded his confusion in fractured English learned from guards. Eggs again they give yesterday too. His mistake. Guards say no mistake. Everyday eggs. He ate 6 pieces of toast, drank 3 cups of coffee, vomited an hour later behind the latrine. The camp medical log shows 43 similar incidents that first week. Digestive systems shocked by fat and protein after months of deprivation. The hoarding intensified. Inspections on July 8th found a systematic smuggling network. Prisoners transferred food during work details, burying it in hidden caches near the motor pool. One cache, discovered when a guard noticed disturbed earth, contained 87 bread rolls, 23 partially eaten steaks wrapped in newspaper, 14 apples. Decomposition had begun. The camp commandant, Colonel Paul Neufeld, convened the Prisoner Liaison Committee. His meeting notes survive. Informed prisoners via interpreter that food supply permanent. Met with silence. Spokesman asked how long permanent means. Stated indefinite. Spokesman asked what indefinite means. Ended meeting. Trust did not come from words. It came from repetition. Week 2, the same portions. Week 3, the same. Müller's diary entries shift in tone. July 14th. Steak again. They not run out. July 18th. Eggs every morning. Maybe as Kansas-rich place only. July 22nd. Butter every meal. Where they get so much? The answer sat 200 kilometers northwest. Kansas wheat production in 1943. 187.7 million bushels. Beef cattle inventory, 3.8 million head. Peak wartime numbers driven by government price supports. Ellsworth Milling operated 3 shifts. The camp's monthly food expenditure, documented in Concordia County procurement records, $14,200 for 2,400 prisoners. That sum would have fed an entire Wehrmacht regiment, 2,500 men, for 3 months under German logistics planning from the same period. American garrison rations in 1943 provided between 3,400 and 3,800 calories daily, with 110 to 132 grams of protein. The standard B ration, used for mass feeding, furnished approximately 3,900 calories per man per day. Even the K ration, designed as an emergency assault ration, provided 2,130 calories for 3 meals, more than German frontline troops received in a full day. The 5-in-1 ration provided 3,183 calories and 98 grams of protein, while the 10-in-1 ration offered 4,188 calories and 124 grams of protein. Behavior changed gradually, then suddenly. By August, inspection reports noted decreasing food hoarding. Müller's diary, August 9th. I leave bread on plate today. Mornings still come, food still there. The psychological shift occurred in visible stages. First, men stopped taking extra rolls. Then they stopped hiding butter. By September, they began refusing seconds when offered. The abundance removed the fear. And without the fear, appetite found natural limits. But not for everyone. Gefreiter Hans Lehmann, 334th Infantry Division, captured in Italy, never stopped hoarding. His psychological evaluation from October 1943 notes persistent trauma indicators from Leningrad siege. He had survived the Northern Front winter 1941-1942, when German rations dropped to 200 grams of bread daily and men ate leather. Every inspection found food under his mattress, rotting despite repeated warnings. He served 3 days in camp detention for health code violations. The camp psychiatrists note, "Subject cannot accept permanent supply concept. Recommends observation but no punishment. Survival behavior too deeply ingrained." The Red Cross inspection of Camp Concordia, November 1943, recorded an unusual complaint from prisoner representatives. The portions were too large. Men were gaining weight, averaging 8 kilograms in 4 months. Some requested smaller servings to avoid becoming fat. The inspector, Dr. Friedrich Baumann from the Swiss delegation, noted the irony in his report. Prisoners expressed concern about overfeeding. This observer has never encountered such complaint in 40 camp inspections across 3 continents. The phenomenon was not unique to Concordia. Across America, 425,000 German POWs housed in over 700 camps experienced the same transformation. At Camp Alva, Oklahoma, designated as a maximum security facility for Nazi hardliners, 3,000 Afrika Korps veterans arrived in October 1943. Their intake processing revealed physical deterioration beyond Concordia's prisoners. Average weight, 58 kilograms for men whose Wehrmacht records showed pre-capture norms of 72. Medical Officer Captain Robert Chen documented first meal reactions. 17 cases of acute gastric distress. Prisoners consumed food at speed, suggesting fear of imminent removal. One subject ate until unconsciousness, required hospitalization. The difference was sequence. Concordia's prisoners arrived directly from North Africa via processing centres. Alva's men came through British custody first 4 months in Tunisian POW cages, where rations reflected Britain's own shortage economy. Camp Hearn, Texas, received its first prisoners on June 4, 1943. The camp would eventually house 4,800 German POWs, primarily from the Afrika Korps. Unteroffizier Wilhelm Hoffmann's letter to his mother in Hamburg, written 6 months after arrival. "The portions are so large I cannot finish them. They give us oranges at breakfast, not special occasions, every day if we wanted." The camp menu contained approximately 3,500 calories, more than German civilians received in 2 days. Camp McCain, Mississippi, constructed to train American infantry divisions, was converted to house over 7,700 German POWs by late 1944. The prisoners worked on one of the war's most ambitious engineering projects, the Mississippi River Basin Model. Using hundreds of wheelbarrows and shovels, POWs cleared a 1 square mile area and constructed a miniature Mississippi River basin complete with drainage ditches, streets, bridges, and topographical features. At Camp Concordia, prisoners didn't just eat, they learned. The facility developed what became known as the Prisoner of War University, later supported by the Army's Special Projects Division. By 1945, the University of Kansas offered a comprehensive curriculum of courses taught in German by qualified instructors. The program included subjects ranging from agriculture to philosophy, American history to automotive repair, constitutional law to democratic governance. Over 300 courses were available, with detailed syllabi, bibliographies, and appendices in German. The educational initiative was part of a broader re-education program designed to counter Nazi ideology. The approach was subtle, relying not on overt propaganda, but on exposure to democratic values through daily life and optional coursework. One report noted, approximately 60% of non-political prisoners show measurable movement toward democratic ideals after 6 months of exposure to American society and targeted education. The camp's food supply never faltered. December records show the same procurement numbers. January 1944, the same. By spring, the hoarding had effectively ceased. Müller's final entry on the subject, April 1945. We eat normal now. Like is always there because it is. The realization spread through other camps at different velocities. The contrast with conditions back home became increasingly stark. By 1945, letters from Germany described civilian rations of 1,200 calories daily. Meat once weekly if available. Bread made with sawdust extenders. At Camp Indianola, Nebraska, prisoners processed mail from families in Essen, Hamburg, Berlin. These men were eating 300 or 400 calories daily, including Sunday roasts. The guilt compounded. At Camp Opelika, Alabama, prisoners refused meals for 2 days in March 1945 after letters described conditions in German cities under bombing. Camp Commandant threatened to report the strike as a Geneva Convention violation. Prisoner spokesman Major Wilhelm Müller explained through interpreter, "We eat better as prisoners than our families at home. This is not acceptable to German honor." The Commandant's response, recorded in camp log, informed prisoners their starvation does not feed German civilians. Rations will continue per regulation. Refusal will result in disciplinary action and medical intervention if health declines. The strike ended after 40 hours. One documented prisoner gained 57 pounds in 2 years, from 128 pounds to 185 pounds. When asked about it, he stated, "I had gotten so fat you could no longer see my eyes." Medical records from various camps showed average weight gains of 14 kilograms, approximately 31 pounds, over 17 months of captivity. Studies of Camp Ellisville, Alabama noted gains averaging 45 pounds per prisoner over 18 months. By war's end, the realization was complete and bitter. These men had gained weight while their nation starved. Camp Ruston, Louisiana, May 1945. News of German surrender reached prisoners during evening meal. Silence. Then someone laughed. Hysteria cracked. "We lost," he said in German, translated later by guards, "and we eat like kings." The repatriation camps in Europe forced the final accounting. Spring 1946, American-held prisoners were transferred to British and French custody for return processing. The food changed immediately. Camp 22-7 near Cherbourg, France. British administration, French rations. Obergefreiter Werner Weber's cardboard list resumed. May 3. Bread 400 grams, soup thin, no meat. May 4th, same. May 5, same. The American time is finished. Medical examinations at repatriation centers documented the reversal. U.S. Army Medical Corps reports from processing stations in Le Havre, Marseille, and Antwerp tracked weight loss averaging 1.2 kilograms per week among transferring prisoners. Dr. Heinrich Vogel, German physician working under Allied supervision at Le Havre, noted, "Metabolisms adapted to American rations cannot adjust to European scarcity in healthy time frame. We are processing men whose bodies remember abundance, but must relearn deprivation." In occupied Germany, conditions were catastrophic. Average civilian rations in the summer of 1945 fluctuated between 700 1,190 calories daily in the western zones. By October 1945, rations stood at 1,250 calories per person, far below the 2,000 calorie minimum recommended by the Food and Agriculture Organization. A survey completed in November revealed that indigenous production would provide the normal consumer with an average of just 938 calories between November 1945 and September 1946. Even with limited food imports from the United States, caloric intake would not climb higher than 1,100 calories. German civilians in the US zone were authorized to receive 1,354 calories, but were believed to be obtaining only 1,250 on average. By comparison, displaced persons in Allied camps received 2,300 calories, and British civilians received 3,000 calories. Military Governor Lucius Clay reported, "Undoubtedly, a large number of refugees have already died of starvation, exposure, and disease." Müller returned to Dusseldorf in August 1946. 68 kilograms heavier than his capture weight of 61, lighter than his release weight from Concordia of 74. His first meal at home: potato soup, no meat, bread with turnip jam. His mother apologized for the meagerness. He ate in silence, then spoke the only English phrase he used in her presence: "Is enough." His diary entry that night: "She does not know what enough means now. Neither do I." The cognitive dissonance became a shared veteran experience. Reunions of former prisoners, documented in German Veterans Association records through the 1950s, returned obsessively to American food. Not the battles, not the capture, not the defeat, the portions. The transformation of American occupation policy from punitive to rehabilitative began in early 1946. President Truman reversed the wartime ban on food imports to Germany and publicly endorsed the Council of Relief Agencies licensed to operate in Germany, Krylog. Monthly shipments of relief supplies began arriving at German ports. The decision to feed Germany paved the way for the Marshall Plan in 1947. Announced by Secretary of State George Marshall at Harvard University on June 5, 1947, the plan proposed that European nations create an economic reconstruction program with American assistance. Over the next 4 years, Congress appropriated $13.3 billion for European recovery. Germany received substantial aid, not just food, but capital, materials, and technical assistance to rebuild industry and agriculture. The prisoners had seen the future during their captivity. Former Wehrmacht quartermaster Major Friedrich Wolf had calculated Camp Chaffee's food waste at 18 to 22% of total supply. His clandestine report, smuggled to German intelligence through Red Cross letters, reached Berlin in January 1944. American supply capacity exceeds frontline need by comfortable margin. Waste indicates production surplus, not scarcity management. Implications for war sustainability assessment require revision. By the 1950s, Concordia rations had entered German military vocabulary shorthand for the material imbalance that decided the war before tactics mattered. Bundeswehr logistics manuals from 1956 referenced POW feeding standards as benchmarks for sustainable force projection. Lesson from 1943: logistical superiority enables strategic patience. Enemy who feeds prisoners at 3,200 calories possesses reserve capacity beyond our offensive reach. Müller gave his final interview in 1998, age 76, to a Dusseldorf historical society. The interviewer asked about his combat experience. He redirected, "You want to know about the war? I'll tell you about the war. On July 4th, 1943, I walked into an American mess hall and thought the tables were decorated. I had not seen that much food on one plate in 2 years. They gave me this every day for 700 days. We lost because they could do that, feed prisoners like officers while fighting on 4 continents. Everything else is commentary." He died 4 months later. The camp at Concordia closed in 1946, converted to storage for agricultural equipment. The mess hall remained standing until 1963, demolished to expand grain silos for wheat harvest. The County Historical Society preserved one artifact, a metal serving tray, standard US Army issue, with compartments for entree, vegetables, starch, and dessert. The plaque reads, Camp Concordia, 1943-1946. They came as enemies, left understanding the distance between us. That distance was measured in buttergrams and steak ounces, in calories prisoners couldn't comprehend and waste they couldn't justify, in abundance that rewrote their understanding of what war meant. The fighting killed millions. The feeding revealed who could sustain the fighting indefinitely. The prisoners learned this at 1,700 hours daily, one tray at a time, until the lesson became body memory, the feel of enough, then more than enough, then so much that enough lost meaning. They carried that feeling home to a continent that had forgotten what it felt like. Some never forgave the knowing. Most never forgot the taste.